It's Kezzy here from Kezzy Arts. I thought I'd just take some time to go over a few little tips and tricks with watercolor painting. So, yep, first I will go over things that I use, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, great. First things first, to start with watercolor, you'll need some watercolor paints. You don't need anything too fancy, but you definitely want something better than just a dollar set that you got at Dollar Tree. This is just, I think, maybe a $12 set from Hobby Lobby. And it's a pretty nice set for what it is. I like it because it has a lid that I can blend colors on. And it works really well for a palette. And it's easy to rinse off. Next, I use this watercolor paper by Strathmore. I mean, you don't need anything fancy once again, but at least some acid-free watercolor paper, because watercolor paper is different than other types of paper. For instance, look at this printer paper. If I spray this with water, it is going to essentially just immediately soak the water up and probably end up tearing the page once I start going. And it just doesn't work very well, okay? And it'll curl up, get all messy and whatnot. Also, if you can see those little tiny bumps, that is not a fun thing to deal with printer paper. Now here's on my watercolor paper. Complete difference. That's just a dry. And here's after I spray it. Usually doesn't have too much problem curling up, so yep, just immediate difference. Nice. The next thing I use is a rinse cup and a fresh water cup. I rinse in here, get fresh water in there to use with my paints so that I'm not muddling up all my paint. If you do that, then it usually looks muddy on your picture after time. If your water turns black or brown and you're trying to use like yellow, it's going to look really gross on your paper. Now this next one is essential, okay? It's my IV. I use it constantly. Coffee, all right? I drink the coffee like it's water. Yes, this is essential. Yes. And if you don't like coffee, I mean, water, milk, chocolate milk, tea, if you will. I mean, anything to just kind of keep you distracted, keep you going, give you something to do while you paint. And now we have brushes and pencils. And I like to use acrylic paint on top of my paintings sometimes, just to give it an extra highlight if I need to. Yeah, I'm not really sure why there's an X-Acto knife in here with clay all over it, but I think every artist kind of has some sort of thing like this. Oh, this is my white gel pen. It's just a jelly roll. It's just from Hobby Lobby too. It's just a few dollars for this. It's Not a lot. It came in a 3-pack. I really like them. I would definitely get more. I'm trying to find a better type of pen for highlights and things. Maybe I will one day. See if you can see that little tiny heart. I like them. They're different sizes. You can't really see that one at all, can you? This one's my favorite. It's bigger, so next time I probably won't worry about getting any other size besides this one. It was an experiment, you know. So I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted. I also use a ruler. You know, get straight lines. I use it for all sorts of things. I think it's important. Now I'm going to illustrate how to do a few washes. They're kind of the fundamental building blocks for watercolor. So stick around and I'll show you how to do a few. This is called a flat wash. So essentially, you just start on one side and you try to blend that color as evenly as possible and just move down wherever you want this wash. And just each stroke should overlap the last one. And if it starts doing this, where it gets too dry, just wet your brush, get a little more paint, and keep going. Just trudge along and see what happens, you know. It shouldn't be too hard. Pretty self-explanatory, a flat wash. There's no problem in going over it several times to make sure it's blended. There you go, that's a flat wash. Bam! Not too difficult, anyone can do it. Now I'm going to show you a graded wash, and I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate it with my flat wash that I already have on there. So what you want to do is make your bold color up top, and then you just rinse off your brush and wet it down. And you're going to do the same technique as before, but this time just with water, and you're going to slowly pull that color down. You use the same overlapping technique as before. As you work downward, you just get more and more water, weakening the color even more until you're happy with your results, and you just keep practicing until it is where you want it to be. And that is your graded wash. Now this technique is the wet on wet technique. Now I wet my brush, it's not soaking wet, and I'm just going to place some water on here where I want it. I'm not going to put it anywhere else. Now I'm going to get a generous amount of paint and just kind of see what happens. I like adding other colors together next to each other when it's wet on wet because they blend together and it looks pretty. And there's the wet on wet concept. before you add colors next to each other, you definitely want to let it dry. Like in this negative space right here. Otherwise, it'll just blend together and look really murky. So those are 3 techniques that are good for beginner artists when it comes to watercolor. But one of the most valuable things I could tell you is don't be afraid to make mistakes, because your work will be so much better if you just relax and allow yourself to make mistakes, because experimenting and making mistakes is how we grow, and you become a better artist by experimenting. So just have fun with it and your work will take off. So thank you so much for watching, and I try to put a video out every week. Next time I'm going to go over some more advanced techniques with watercolor, and stick around for that. Thank you. Press like if you enjoyed this video and it helped you at all. All right, thanks. Bye.